Episode 2, Unbound. How do you do, G-Pod crew? It's your Nutty Buddy Putty here, and today we're going to be talking about Halo, Episode 2, Unbound. Now, I'm going to be going into a lot of detail, but I do want to state that a lot of people might be upset about this series, and I will be going into a full breakdown, and I'm also going to do my final thoughts at the end, and why I think the progression of this series is going in the right direction, actually. And I will explain that all in my final thoughts, but we will be going through breakdown of the whole episode, and then, of course, going from there. As far as what I think is, I think this show is going in a different direction, but it's going to lead into something that's going to be more familiar territory, but just in another direction. I already said that twice, didn't I? My point to the whole thing is though a lot of people might not like the means of him, of the characters, especially the crucial characters like John and so on and so forth. But I'm going to explain my final thoughts why these might be more important than I even thought before, and why both episode 1 and episode 2 were so significant in one, giving us the lore and Easter eggs we want, as well as the background information that we may not have had before that makes sense more now than they ever did. And with that being said, let's go and get started with a full breakdown of the Easter eggs and then my final thoughts. Now, for my first Easter egg, I want to address a young Spartan by the name of John. Now, before I get into this, a lot of people that might be watching my reviews may not be aware that I actually record my Easter eggs as I'm watching the episode, especially when I feel there's something to add. And I felt this is a perfect time to add the backstory of John that was told through the books, comics, so on and so forth. So keep in mind that in the books, comics, however you want to look at it, he was a lot like a certain Marvel character. He had a gap between his teeth, freckles on his face. He was puny, small, and then but because of his courage, things of that nature, he underwent the Spartan program to become a super soldier, much like Steve Rogers from Captain America from the Marvel Universe. So he underwent a lot of procedures to become a super soldier, and as you see on the screen, he doesn't really look like a dork, a nerd, or someone of that nature. But in the books, they definitely did address how he looked, things of that nature. The reason I'm bringing this up is because Paramount Plus series definitely makes a lot of changes when it comes to the series now, which I've come to accept. Especially if I'm going to enjoy this, I don't want to be like, this is not going to be enjoyable because it doesn't follow the lore. It's going a different step, and I understand that. But they're addressing a lot of things a little bit early on that they never addressed in the games, that gave it more of you felt more like Master Chief. So depending on what they do here, because again, as I stated, when it comes to me recording this, I'm literally watching it as we speak. I will not know about what's about to happen until after I record this and put it into the review/breakdown. But with that being said, I wanted to go ahead and give you some backstory of John. And one other thing, he also I'll never forget this. He actually says the one thing he remembers about his mom is she smelled like soap. It's an odd thing to say. Now, for this Easter egg, it's quite interesting. You'll notice that John here is actually looking at a bed, and I'll point it out right now, that says 066 right here. My mouse is like underlining it right here. And this is very important to the lore of Halo in general and the Spartans. So, Soren 066 is a Spartan that went through the initial stages of augmentation. And Catherine Halsey was the one that actually treated him, but he was excited. He was one of those cadets or Marines that was excited to go through the Spartan program. He didn't want to be well known. He didn't want to stay under the radar. He just wanted to be a normal Marine helping out and serving his country. So he ends up going into the Spartan program to become augmented because he's excited to get, muscles and become a big guy. And this is something that was never really addressed in the games. It was more addressed in the books, in the literature, basically. And so, what makes this unique is what ends up happening with Soren is he ends up going MIA because the augmentations end up disfiguring his body, and he even gets into a coma for 3 months until Catherine Halsey actually tells him what happened to him and how he couldn't go into active duty. So what this means is they're definitely more going into the lore of the books, and I did read online that they didn't really look into the games. They're looking more into the books and the literature, which does have a lot more lore and detail than the games do. But sometimes they kind of drift off away from some lore of the video games as well. Not really in a bad way, but maybe convoluted to what the game might be. So that's why we're definitely going to see some changes here, especially since last episode we saw John take off his helmet. And as I just addressed before, again, they might talk about Soren right after I, record this part of the full breakdown. But I at least wanted to make it well known that Soren 066, or Spartan Soren 066, is part of the original lore. And to see John being established with him, whether it's just the one look and it's like a nod to the fans of the books and literature, or if it's actually something that's going to be established in the show as a major part. But all we know is that Soren is MIA right now, not to be found, and is disfigured because of the augmentations of the Spartans. And with that being said, let's continue. Now, for this Easter egg, this seems more of like maybe foreshadowing or something that is, I'm just putting out there to address something, especially since I didn't really like this Halo game, but it could be addressed in this. So, what you're seeing here is a drone above where John is currently, or looks like he's currently escaping from his military school, I should say. And you'll notice that there's a drone flying here. Now, this reminded me of something quite different than this drone, and I wanted to address this because it may be foreshadowing. See, I've never seen drones in the Halo universe, or at least not that any that I could find or address. But when I saw this drone, the two lifts here that you see, the circular lifts, actually remind me of something from Halo 4. And that is the Promethean Watcher. Now, the Promethean Watcher is I was trying to think of the name, a Forerunner Sentinel. And the Forerunners became way more prominent in Halo 4 because they were trying to get more past the Elite War and go into the Forerunners, especially since the Forerunners predicted a lot of things, and a lot more war with the Forerunners ended up being addressed in the Halo series. But the reason I'm bringing this up is because there's something here about this Promethean Watcher that looks a lot familiar. As you see, the way he flies is with these heated circular fans on the side of its body. And this is quite similar to what you're seeing here. Now, the body shape is quite different. Doesn't have the roundedness as that does, as far as this drone. But I'm kind of looking at this as a foreshadowing to the Forerunners being a major part, especially since in last episode we did see the Forerunner symbol. So I feel this series is going to address the Forerunners a lot more, and I felt it'd be nice to show you guys this little Easter egg when it comes to this drone. Now, when it comes to Soren's origin story, I want to address one thing that I'm not sure if I addressed, literally several minutes ago. But when Soren was actually mutilated, as you saw with his arm, or disfigured, I should say, his strength in the Spartan program had him, well, first off, he was chained down by Halsey. And then what ended up happening is he broke free of the chains, or the straps, or whatever was holding him down, and escaped. They definitely changed this. Okay, so now we know for a fact Soren 066 is, of course, part of the origin story with John, but instead of him missing in action, and again, I don't even think, yeah, for a fact, I know John wasn't involved in his origin story in the book, which is the Pariah book. But the point of the whole thing is that they are addressing his origin story, but they're not addressing it the same way where he escapes out of his shackles. It's more of he escapes with, or supposedly supposed to be with John, and then it was changed to where he escapes by himself. So this is definitely a change, but at least they're addressing Soren as one of the OG Spartans, I guess you can call it. I love it when a character from the games I love of the Halo series appears. This is Lord Terrence Howard. Now, of course, he's a huge part of the game and as well as the lore. He's been in command. He's made brass decisions. One of them was the portal of Vol. He allowed for Miranda Keyes and Master Chief to cross into the portal, which also allowed the flood to come to Earth. So it was basically like a, taking a chance on Master Chief and, and what he's able to do. But that's just the simple part of some decisions he's made in the past. He's made a lot of decisions when it comes to the Covenant and so on and so forth, in leading everyone when it comes to the Marines and the Spartans and so on and so forth. So it's nice to see a crucial character like this again appearing, and I remember the first time I saw him was in Halo 2. So again, nice to see them addressing major characters that, well, are in the books as well as the video games. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the Rubble. Now, the Rubble is a station where it has like transporting tubes, which you'll see along here and everything, and is built out of meteors and asteroids to make a society out of. Honestly, this is more of a better visual interpretation than the books might have shown. Here's an example of what it looks like in the books, and it's very, very different in my eyes. But I feel like this one captures the essence of what is said within the literature and was more identifiable as, when it comes to looking at it. So yeah, this is awesome to see the Rubble here. Now, I don't know if we're gonna have the same people here or what, because there's a lot of people that end up dying, so they might end up having a war here in this series. I'm not sure if this is going to be a pinnacle location or not. I guess it's based on what Master Chief is doing here, or if it's just a side mission just to, again, I don't know, but we'll have to find out. Well, I guess this answers the question. Is Soren MIA in this series or dead? And neither nor. Soren's right here, and he's at the Rubble. He was never at the Rubble before in the series. This is a change. Is it for the good? I don't know. This is interesting. Another big change, especially since Master Chief takes off his helmet on a norm now. Yeah, that's a thing. Could this be Charles Kesler from ECB News from the old? It's a video called Hunt. I can't remember. It's Hunt for the Truth. That's the word. Hunt for the Truth, or Hunt the Truth. And he's actually investigating as an adult, because I looked at the timelines, and this could be Charles Kesler. But he basically investigates the wrongdoings of the Spartan 2 project and the naval intelligence. But this all happens later down the road. So this whole thing may be connected to where maybe they're doing the whole Spartan 2 UNC or the naval intelligence being corrupt early on. Interesting. Or I could just be reaching. Get it? Reaching. Okay, so this confirms what I talked about in the last episode, or not really confirms, but something I wasn't aware of what it was, and now this is confirmation here. So that thing that Master Chief picked up in the first thing, first off with the Marathon logo connecting it to the Forerunners, that's actually a keystone to the Halo ring, one of the most powerful weapons in the universe. And it's a keystone is a part of activating the Halo ring. So that's a big deal when it comes to the series. But there's a lot of stuff that was separated when it comes to the lore. So they're definitely like compacting and putting a lot of things all at one time, which I guess makes sense because the game is based on just military aspects. So why not get directly to the story? But I will say, because of this does make it feel a little bit more slow-paced, because they're dipping more into lore, and we're not getting the action we're used to when it comes to Halo. She finally mentioned Cortana. Do I need to say more? I said this in the last episode, but don't worry. Until we actually see Cortana, I won't get into detail about Cortana until... Well, actually, I kind of already got into detail about Cortana last episode too, but believe me, it's well-deserved. Cortana's huge. A big part of Halo. So it's nice to hear Catherine Halsey finally mention her to the rest of the naval intelligence. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to Reth. Now, Reth is a what they call like a Jekyll zealot, part of the Jekyll ship. Think of them kind of like pirates in the Halo universe, and they were part of the Cole Protocol book series, a mini series that was set up in the books, where they were, essentially people that would go on to command a certain legion of characters throughout the book. But they've seen battle, they've seen Covenant. This one was actually captured by Covenant and escaped, but has seen things and made them a bit crazy. So this is something you won't see in the game. This is definitely literature lore for the Halo series. And there you guys have it. That is my full breakdown of episode 2, Unbound. Now, I said I'd do my final thoughts, so let me go and explain to you why exactly I think the progression of this is in the right direction. So, if you played the games, you remember in the first Halo game, it literally had Master Chief just battling through, waking up from hibernation, battling through, and then getting Cortana. There was no means to why, other than stuff that they explained later. And of course, Soren, those kind of characters were MIA in action. Here's the reason why I think this is so crucial when it comes to these two episodes. The first episode was more of, here's your characters, here's where this world stands, and here's some cool stuff from the show to keep you, interested. Then episode 2 was more of, there's a reason why we're doing this. I think what's going on here is they're trying to humanize Master Chief, so when we see him with his helmet on and he becomes the Spartan that we're used to, we get the Spartan that we're used to with a little bit of humanization, so that way when he is in a crucial situation and he makes his choices, it's not as, we don't feel as strongly about it. So think about this. If we went with the Master Chief that we know from the video game, we don't know him personally, and we always put ourselves into the characteristics of him. We always felt ourselves to be Master Chief alone. And in the video games, he does turn on the Marines. He does turn on the whole Spartan situation. And there is corruption within the establishment of Spartans and the Marines and so on and so forth. This is just an early setup to where he's now back with the Spartans. He's going to get Cortana in the next episode, and we're going to put it right back into where we know from Halo 1, Halo 2, Halo 3. But then what's going to happen is that deep lore that's within the books is going to be something I feel more is going to be incorporated with other characters, and then Master Chief is going to have conflicting ideas that in his head he can speak with Cortana about. I think him and Cortana are going to have the relationship they have in the video games where they're close, and there's a love between both of them, and not more love like like a father son mother mother son or even brother sister kind of thing, depending on how you want to look at it. But the thing is, they're going to have a close chemistry that when he's conflicted, she's going to lead him in the right direction of being the good Spartan that he needs to be, while at the same time he is going to be able to break in and take down the UNC, or at least change it for the good. And then of course there's the marking that Kesler put on his hand. I think that's a way for him to be humanized so he can remind himself of why he's doing everything he does. So my point to the whole thing is, I think this is going in the right direction. I'm still mad that Master Chief took off his helmet, but now I understand why. We need to see the human underneath so we can get better feel sympathy for him when he has to deal with some of the conflicts he's going through. The helmet takes that away. Now he's humanized for us, And when he puts that helmet back on, he'll still be human, but he'll be the strong Spartan whenever he has the helmet on that we want him to be. I think we're going to get the action we're looking for next, and I think what's going to end up happening is that we are now going to be able to sympathize with Master Chief and his decisions ongoing throughout the series without him having to even take off the helmet. And I'm kind of hoping that's the end there, too. I don't mind occasionally, but let's have a few episodes where it's just Master Chief, not John. Eventually, we can go back to John, but let's stick with Master Chief and Cortana, and I think that's where we're going to start with episode 3. And with that being said, I want to thank you all for watching. Make sure to hit the like button, make sure to hit the subscribe button. I hope you guys enjoyed my full breakdown and my final thoughts and why I think this show is leading into something beautiful that I can't wait to see. And as always, I am Putty with the G-Pod crew, and you know what we do. We do our review of things we like to do. I'm a dork. All right, I'll see you guys next week for episode 3.